How's it going? This is Dave. I'm here with...
Oh, I'm Cam.
Oh,
Yes, that's me.
welcome to episode 109 of the Master Class. We're happy that you're here with us. How you doing?
Me or them?
You.
Oh.
Because I can't answer.
Well, they can answer out loud. We'll just leave
okay.
the next 5 seconds. Listener, how are you? Awesome.
Yeah.
Or, that's really sad.
Sorry
Or,
to hear that. Yeah, that's tough.
Oh, gosh.
Interactive podcasting.
Yes. Oh, that's the future, man.
Well, I think that's called live.
Live call-ins.
Call-ins.
Maybe we should start an anchor show. We can do that.
Yeah.
Technology's here. It's all on your phone. It's a wonderful thing.
That is very scary, the amount of technology that is available.
But anyways, we're here. It's episode 109. Dave asked me how I'm doing. I'm finally going to answer his question like a good co-host. I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm okay. I'm not great. I'm okay.
And
that's okay.
It is okay. I'm
Yeah.
okay. You're okay. That's what it is.
Yes.
So we're kind of going a new direction today.
Yes,
And
we're going to talk about the Quran. No, I'm just kidding.
We're scrapping that whole Bible thing.
Oh, boy.
We're going to jump into the book of Romans. And we don't exactly know what that's going to look like. Not that we ever know what we're going to do is going to look like, but we've decided to tackle the book of Romans, and
Because we're gluttons for punishment, apparently.
Gluttons for punishment, and we've agreed that we're not going to dissect it verse by verse.
Like we did with Matthew, yeah.
So if there's a topic related to Romans, which I'm pretty sure just about every topic could fall under Romans that you could come up with, but
That's related to the Bible.
that's related to the Bible. Well, I think just about...
I don't know. I don't think Pokemon Go falls under Romans' purview.
I think that's under like the worshiping false idols. Romans 2 that have the images of...
All right. Dave will make it fit into Romans. I believe that's called eisegesis, not exegesis.
Not exegesis.
Yes. Yeah, I'm slightly terrified, but more so excited. Because there's just a lot of stuff in Romans, and we'll get to that. But why do you want to talk about Romans? And then maybe I can answer that. Because it just seems random. Like, it's not... The show, for the long time, was what Jesus said and did and why it matters today.
Yeah.
And Romans is most definitely written after the death of Jesus and written to people that are alive after the death and resurrection of Jesus. But, we're not reading things that he said, and we're not reading things that he did. So it is a big shift for us in what we've talked about. But what is appealing about Romans to you that made you want to head in this direction?
There are a lot of things that make me want to do this, but I would have to say that I'm fascinated by the number of significant people in the church history who are impacted by reading the book of Romans. Martin Luther, in particular, and kind of this idea of being saved by grace, and it's not about works. So I think that's kind of the first part of it. It's just the people that have been influenced by Romans, the book of Romans, then been influenced by the church. The second piece for me is I just feel like Romans does such a great job of dealing with this tension that I feel like we're all always in terms of how do I be a Christian and how do I live out my faith. And I think sometimes it's tougher to live in the grace after becoming a Christian and being years down the road than it is to accept that grace when we're first brought to him. And so, doing the very things I don't want to do, and just kind of listening to, getting a glimpse into Paul's, I'm going to say, struggle. I don't know if that's a fair word, but him just wrestling with what the Christian faith is all about. And then this is kind of maybe a little bit of a stretch, but Paul has an interaction with Jesus after Jesus has resurrected. Not the Holy Spirit, but actually with Jesus. In Acts 9, where it talks about Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? Saul says, who are you, Lord? And he says, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. And so
shouldn't they be like, you're the one persecuting me? Shouldn't you know who I am?
Yeah. and so there's that element of it, and then even if you kind of take this, I don't claim to be a scholar in Pauline theology or the letters that he wrote, but Romans very much has this like introduction to I was called to be an apostle and set apart for the gospel of God, the gospel he promised beforehand through his prophets and holy scriptures regarding his son. And I, I, I think for me, Romans more than any other of the letters that Paul wrote has this connection for us in terms of the masterclass and what Jesus says and what it has on our life in it. And so I kind of want to unpack that a little bit of because I'm just like, wow, he has some like firsthand knowledge that is really intense to me. So that was a really long answer that I guess I didn't even kind of totally realize that was all in there for me. So
it's all good. I think for me, I mean, there's a few reasons why I want to talk about Romans. I think Romans scares a lot of people because
I'm in that camp.
A lot of big words, a lot of big concepts, a lot of potentially confusing thoughts because Paul just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, and it's kind of hard sometimes to understand exactly what he's talking about because he is so verbose and he is trying to deal with these concepts that are, abstract and new to the world. They never existed before this.
No.
And so part of me wants to tackle that because I enjoy a good challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can in any way be a part of helping someone out there understand Romans a little bit better and understanding what Paul's talking about, like, that's awesome. And we'll give total credit to God for working through us in that way if it does happen, because I mean, we're just guys, we're not scholars. We're not, we're not dumb, but we're not J.I. Packer. We're not Dallas Willard. We're not Martin Luther. Like, we're just guys.
Yep.
With microphones.
So,
but with a desire to discuss and help. And so if we can do that with a book that I think a lot of people are hesitant or confused by or wary of, just because of how, and the kind of the stigma that Romans comes with is like, ooh, justification and glorification and sanctification and the Romans road and all of, that stuff that you're just kind of like, oh, can we just read Philippians? That's only 4 chapters, So that's one reason. The other reason, and kind of on top of that, is because it is so heavy on theology and doctrine, I automatically gravitate towards wanting to talk about that stuff because that stuff really intrigues me. And I know dogma might, bore people, but I think theology and doctrine is incredibly interesting. And I think if we can have a normal discussion in normal terms about what it means, that might help people out there who wouldn't give it a shot otherwise go, oh, you know what? That actually is pretty interesting. Or, oh, wow, that means this for me. Or I never thought about it that way. And if we can just stir conversation around, terms like justification and sanctification and glorification and the doctrine, of the gospel and that sort of stuff, and get people to not be or those things being taboo, or for the smart scholarly Christians, like it's important for everyone to understand, as you put it, what Paul is talking about with wrestling with the faith, and some of that is wrestling with those concepts and understanding them. And then I guess third, I like a long book, because like we can sit on this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And
is it a 16?
I think it's 13.
13.
That's how prepared we are, guys. Oh no.
Plus,
No,
we
no.
don't memorize.
It's definitely 16.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Plus,
some meat to it.
Yeah, and I think to your point earlier about, kind of being like the masterclass for Christian life, like I think outside of the Gospels, which are, their history, telling the life of Jesus, what he did, what he said, who he interacted with. I think Romans is geared. I mean, he's writing to the capital. He's writing to the people in Rome, the capital of the known world. And I'm on my way, and here's what you need to know. Like, this is Paul's, Magna Carta. This is his constitution. This is his. I'm telling the people in the most important or largest city in the known, world at this point, to his knowledge, exactly everything I want them to know about Jesus, about God, and about the faith. And so for that reason, Romans excites me too, because it's like, this is Paul's one shot to tell people in the most influential part of the world everything he wants them to know about the faith in God. And so I think for that reason, it's incredibly important for us to unpack what he says, because I mean, this is not like Philippians or 1 Timothy or 1 Thessalonians or even 1 Corinthians, like, are specific letters to specific people for specific reasons. And this is like his, if I could tell you anything and everything, this is what I want to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that motivation and that, context, I think, is really, really, really what separates Romans apart from anything else in the Bible. And that's why I think it's worth, not that the other books aren't worth, they're all worth reading.
Oh, yeah.
But because of Paul's position and Paul's purpose in this book, I think it kind of sets it apart as its own. Like, you've got the Gospels, and then you've got the rest of Paul's letters, but Romans stands by itself,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Oh, I would agree.
Yeah,
and I think there's a passion for Paul in this letter, and maybe even the people of Rome, that he doesn't have with the other folks, which, again, this is Dave Hogue's speculation here, but not. When I just think about the other letters, there's this just sort of like, I long to be with you, and I know, well, anyway. So yeah, it seems like even for him personally, there's a weightiness to it. There's a more of a passion, and like you said, not as much even. Some of his other letters, it even seems like there's kind of some rebuking going on. Like, this is the issue.
it's personal.
This is the issue that you all are having, and this is why I'm
Mhm.
writing you, and this is what you need to deal with. And off the top of my head, I don't think of that so much with Romans as being it's more of a, for those of you who I do know there, I celebrate what you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Mm-hmm.
And here, I'm going to kind of give you this as, like you said.
It's his manifesto, if we
Mhm.
can use,
Sure.
a term that, means different things to different people, but it's what he wants them to know before he shows up. So when he shows up, there's talking points. You know what I mean? And he's sent this ahead of himself, and he never makes it, does he? He gets shipwrecked on the way, I believe, for like the third time or something stupid. Like, don't travel with Paul, guys. Bad luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like,
Just
if I got on
hanging
a
out
boat,
with him in general could.
well, yeah, bad news.
Land you
No
in
she
jail.
bears though. Yeah, and whereas the other letters are very personal, where he even names people, says you have done this, or this person sends their wishes. Barnabas this, Silas that. Blah 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 blah. They're personal letters to individual churches in specific areas, talking about specific themes and issues that relate directly to that church. Now, those themes and issues can correlate to us and still impact us, but Romans is his masterclass, if we can use a inside baseball term there.
Sure.
And I think, yeah, so that's where I'm at, and I think we're on the same page. And why I think it was so easy for us to agree to do this was like, yeah, that makes total sense.
Yes. So just on a quick little Google search, I don't know how accurate this is, but it looks like not only did Paul go to Rome, but he was imprisoned in Rome for 2 years.
Really?
And I don't know, this could be like somebody's like their own. But anyway,
Well, then my recollection is incorrect if that source can be trusted. What
So-
news site is it on, Dave? Is it CNN or Fox?
the fake news. So another topic, if I can shift gears here actually a little bit, because we'll figure out if Paul actually made it to Rome or not eventually.
Cliffhanger.
Well, I don't think we've really ever discussed the whole like predestination
Oh,
free
here
will.
we go.
because, and we won't get into it today, but I suspect this is going to be one of those things that you and I have different views on.
Now I'm intrigued.
So
I feel like we've brushed against it. We might have even talked about it once. I feel like we have a show title referring to that. But, with 108 in the bag, it's, that's a lot to remember.
It is.
Yes, there's going to be some Calvinist versus non-Calvinist discussions to be had.
Yeah, because I think I'm a little bit more Calvinistic than you are, if that's even a word.
I think you might be surprised.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm a closeted Calvinist.
See, and that's kind of maybe what I. Okay,
but I'm not. But like, I don't feel like I'm a full blown.
Oh, I'm definitely not full blown.
But the free will versus predetermination conversation is something I love to talk about.
Yeah,
because I just don't know.
Well,
but it's like it's just so intriguing to think about and to discuss and to debate and.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't landed yet. I'm getting closer and closer to the ground, but I haven't quite landed yet.
That's funny. It sounds like we're very similar. So maybe we're more alike.
Big surprise,
yeah,
Dave.
Exactly.
Gosh, dang it. Why can't we disagree?
So boring. But, again, I've mentioned my girls before and talking to them about their faith. And that's one of the ones that kind of comes up more and more with them is the,
Well, there's a third option. Did you know that?
Oh, I think there's probably even more than 3 on but
it's called Molinism.
Molinism?
Molinism. Molinism, yeah. And it's that God has foreknowledge.
Sure.
So instead of, free will and predetermination, there's the middle ground, which is foreknowledge, which it's your decision, but God knows what you're going to choose beforehand. If I remember correctly. I haven't researched it since I was in grad school, but
then maybe even he. So, well, we don't need to completely.
We'll get into that.
But then he maybe kind of, based on his foreknowledge, then intervenes on some level, or is it completely just a foreknowledge?
Honestly, I don't know enough off the top of my. It's like I said, it's been 8 or 9 years since I did the research, and I went to grad school with a kid who was not a kid. He was like 24, kid, but an adult. And he was big into Molinism at the time. And he was a philosophy major turned biblical studies, master's. Very smart guy. And he's the one that introduced it to me, and I was like, well, that's a wrench I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
So we'll get there at some point. Stay tuned, listeners.
And I'm always fascinated too, which this is a little bit of a tangent, not necessarily tied to Roman, is the people who set out to disprove Christianity, or, the people from a genuine, I'm not a believer of God, but I'm going to look into this. C.S. Lewis, and then I think Lee Strobel is somebody that's fairly recent. But this idea of people that really kind of decide, I'm going to tackle the Bible, and then end up arriving at well, maybe there is something to this God thing, and then ending up people that have a great impact on the kingdom. It seems to me, and I can't back this up with any kind of fact, of Romans playing a part in that for people, like after the Gospels and things like that. So,
well, I think too, especially among the academic elite, that are non-Christians, the public perception is that they perceive Christians to be stupid or not smart enough to realize that it's all a bunch of hocus pocus. That's the perception. Whether that's true on an individual basis is obviously, not for me to know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the reasons why Romans would play a part in someone kind of going, whoa, wait a minute, is because Paul's no dummy.
No.
The man knows.
Yeah.
The man knows how to speak, how to write, how to communicate, how to argue, how to present things in a very, very, very intelligent way. Like, there was a reason he was who he was before his conversion, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think
a Jew amongst Jews, right?
Like, yeah, leader of the pack, as it were. And there's a reason why people listened to him once he converted. I kind of view it as someone like Dallas Willard, who I don't think, had such a strong conversion, but he was a philosophy professor at USC, which does not strike me as, the hotbed of Christianity, in that department.
No.
But because he was intelligent and thorough and a good academic and a good professor and a good writer, and because he was able to play ball on the level of his secular colleagues, they could not treat him as a dummy Christian because he could hold his own in their court.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, is an incredible witness for Christianity, is that it's not just, normal folks that believe in Christianity. Like, you will find people at the height of law, at the height of medicine, at the height of, non-medical science, at the height of, whatever the industry is, that are Christians. And it's those people that challenge the perception of others that if you're going to be intelligent, you can't also be a Christian. And so that's kind of how I feel about Romans in that sense, is that it is intellectually challenging. Very much so. It is worldview challenging. It is theologically challenging and morally challenging. And that's, again, what excites me the most about talking about it, is because there's going to be times where I read it, I just don't know.
Sure.
And research will have to be done. And when we started out, we were, did a lot more research and read a lot more quotes and that sort of stuff. And then we kind of settled into a very conversational, discussion of Matthew. But I'm not saying we're going to go 100% back to reading a bunch of quotes and doing 4 hours of research for each show, because that's probably not going to happen. That's just not how we roll anymore. And it's not that we don't want to do it. It's just, but I feel like because Romans is such a dense book, some of that might have to happen. And so if you guys hear us quoting other people, it's because we want to do our best to, represent the book and what it means, because, I could use some help.
Absolutely. And there's people a lot smarter than us that have dealt with this and landed on things and deciphered what was said. And so, yeah.
They will be our intellectual Sherpas
as we
climb this mountain.
Climb the Mount Romans. Boy, I had another thought that I was going to say, and it totally is like out of my head now.
That's what I get for saying Sherpas.
Yeah, it's gone.
All right. So I think this episode might wind up being a short one, but it's an introductory episode, so I'm fine with that. But yeah, going forward, I think we're just going to kind of take it a step at a time, and because we're not necessarily going to do this verse for verse like we did Matthew, if there are specific verses or topics or sections that you want us to focus on, or that you have questions or thoughts about, like, this is really your time as a listener to write into the show and let us know, because that would be really helpful for us. Because, like, we obviously have things that we want to focus on and we want to talk about. But, like, if there's a verse or 2 or 5 of Romans that you really like, that you hate, that you don't understand, that you have questions about, like let us know, because that would be really encouraging and helpful for us to know that we can focus there, and that's going to benefit somebody. Even not even for us to provide you with the right answer, but just to maybe provide a different perspective or thought process that's going to kick something off in your head, and then you can go off and do more thinking about it. Like, we're not here to provide you with all the answers, because we just can't. God can move through anybody, but we're not going to give everyone every answer. But if we can help discuss it in a way that's going to help you process it in a different or better way, like, that's really all we can offer, but we can't do that if we don't know what you're thinking. So if you do want to write in over the course of however many future episodes we're going to discuss Romans, but it would be really helpful if you did that, when you listen to this episode, so we can maybe plan a bit of where we're going to go. You can do that. You can email us, hello@supermegacorp.net. Dave's on Twitter at David J. Hogue, at David J. Hogue, and I'm on Twitter at Cam Brennan. Of course, all of these links will be in the show notes, which can be found
at supermegacorp.net/masterclass/109.
Indeed. Or in your podcast app.
Yes.
Because they'll be right there. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
We haven't had an episode this short in a really, really, really long time. This is so unusual.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember what I was going to say. So
I was trying to buy you time, man.
And then it didn't come back. Must not have been all that important.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just call it then.
All right.
I got no problem giving people some more of their life back.
Yeah. We appreciate you listening and look forward to going on this journey with you.
Yes. And just a quick shout out to Katie, Rachel, and Wilby for their Patreon support.
Woohoo.
Still ongoing. You guys are the best.
Appreciate it very much.
Well, and all of our other listeners too.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Listening.
Very,
for
very,
downloading.
very much. It's still kind of weird that people listen. It's cool, but it's interesting. All right. Well, on that awkward ending, we will be back with episode 110 in the near future, and we'll be in Romans. So see you then.
Bye.